Now, it's not quite Christmas, but I'm not going to hold y'all. The NBA free agency start at 6 p.m. is maybe one of my favorite times of the year. One of the reasons is you got players from all over the league that are going to be traveling to different teams, going to different situations. And you know what's funny? It's the moves on the margins. It's the moves between your third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh best player. It's getting the players to continue to buy into a scheme, to an identity that fit next to your stars or superstars, that fit your coaching identity, that fit the kind of culture you're wanting to establish. It's those kind of players that set the precedent for what wins you in NBA champions. So this is going to be amazing. This is going to be a great day. There's a few people that the Denver Nuggets could be looking at. I think that can help them go in the direction they want to go in. But really around the NBA, I'm not going to hold y'all. There's a lot of players with a lot of opportunities to really make their name in a brand new way starting today. So I'm actually really excited. I think that this is going to be a really action-packed free agency time. And y'all see, still repping the Denver Nuggets championship gear 1,000%. First time in team history. Oh, you better believe it. We finna get it. So here's the thing. Today, the free agency deadline starts at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern. So today, you're going to see a lot of the moves, a lot of the discussions around certain players that have been happening quite often. You're going to see the culmination of a lot of these deals. Now, there's been a lot of different stuff that's been happening already. Again, big news. Bradley Beal traded to the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns look like they're trying to gear up. They got a big three going with Bradley, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. They got DeAndre Ayton. Rumor on the street is, though, that they're looking at Kyrie Irving as well. They're possibly looking at getting James Harden. And if you don't know, if you haven't been on Twitter at all, you ain't been watching ESPN, Fox Sports, any of that stuff, James Harden has officially put in another trade request. James Harden opted into his player option. That player option is worth about $35 million. And so what happened was James Harden apparently had negotiations with the 76ers, wanted a longer-term deal, wanted more money. The 76ers said that we're not willing to do that, it looks like. And so James Harden has officially requested a trade. But he knows that if he were to opt out, the teams he wants to go to, the situation he's looking to get into, they just wouldn't have the space. They wouldn't have the cap space to sign him. So if he can get a sign and trade, now you have an opportunity to where you can get into a situation you want to get into with a contender as well, with a contender. So right now, the way that we're kind of situated is we have James Harden more than likely, this doesn't mean definite, more than likely it's going to be between a team like the Clippers, the Suns are looking at him, and then there are the Miami Heat as well. There's like three main teams that have been floating around James Harden's name. Well, James Harden, right now, the place that I think that has the most ability to get him, the most fluctuation to get him, I think that would be the Los Angeles Clippers. Why do I say that? James Harden, they can trade Norman Powell, had a 40-point game in the playoffs this year. Great sixth man, or could be a good starter at the two guard. They have Mookie, which is Marcus Morris. He had a 4-year, $64 million deal that he signed, I want to say maybe 3 years ago at this point in time. So, again, that's another tradable asset. They got Norman Powell, Mook, and then they have Robert Covington, who they still have on their books, who they, for some reason, they don't play often, don't play a lot. I have no idea why. They got Terrence Mann on their roster they could trade as well. So they have a few players and a few different assortments of role players they can put together for James Harden. I do think, too, they have access to, I want to say, 2 first-round picks somewhere in the future. So they objectively could put together a list of role players with 1 or 2 first-round picks to add to that trade to give the Philadelphia 76ers something that they want to be looking at and something they can look forward to. So here's the thing. That puts the 76ers in a very tenuous situation. Now, again, if you've been on my Twitter at all, I think there are a couple options here. I think that if the Portland Trailblazers are serious, right? And so they basically have said repeatedly that we're not wanting to trade Damian Lillard. We want to build around Damian Lillard. You know, he's our best player. He's one of the best players in franchise history. Obviously, you got Clyde Drexler, like, you know, one of the best players in franchise history. So what do you do in that situation? He has communicated over and over again that he doesn't want to leave the city, that he wants to give himself an opportunity to win a championship in Portland. Well, Damian Lillard, Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, if they re-sign him, Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little. Is that really a championship formula? So let me go ahead and show y'all. I put this out on Twitter the other day and got a lot of traction. If I was the Portland Trailblazers, and I was of the mindset that I don't want to build around younger players with Damian Lillard, then I'm going to call the Philadelphia 76ers, who right now look like they're clearly in a situation where they're going to be trading their second best player in James Harden. And you have a potential opportunity to be able to look at them and say, hey, how about this? We have some really young assets on our roster. We have some really good young players on our roster. You have a superstar, and you believe it's a superstar on your roster that's, 29, going to be 30 some point this next season, has a couple of injury concerns, hasn't really been able to elevate in the playoffs consistently, has some issues to his game, lack of playmaking, all this other stuff. Can't handle a double team, all of it. So if you, at the Portland Trailblazers, can look at them and say, how about this? What if we were able to trade you something along the lines of Scoot Henderson, the third overall pick in this year's draft, the second rated prospect in this year's draft, Anthony Simons, making about $25 million a year, really good player. And then on the other side of this, if we were able to give you a couple first-round picks plus Yusuf Nurkic, would that be something you would be interested in? Would that be something you'd be interested in? Because for me, this makes a lot of sense. So you give an opportunity for two players that, quite frankly, have both fumbled in the playoff setting. And if you're able to put them in a situation where you could say, we can give you a tremendous amount of young assets. And again, you don't want Yusuf Nurkic on this roster with him. So he has to go. And if they can take a collection of Anthony Simons, $25 million, I think Yusuf is making like 13 or 14, and then you can give them Scoot, you can trade into a situation where you can take on those contracts. I think that is something that the Portland Trailblazers should absolutely try to do. I think that Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard are a match made in heaven. That pick and roll game would be like on fire every possession. Defensively, they will be a top 10 defense again, with Shaedon, I think, developing as a two-way player with Jeremy Grant and Joel Embiid. And then again, offensively, their ceiling would be incredible. They could arguably have a better offense than the 76ers had just last year. So I think that's a real option for them. Now, will they do that? Nobody knows. Nobody knows if they'll do that or not. No one. But if there's a path for them, this is for me how the Clippers can get better. They get James Harden with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and then now you have Nicholas Batum or Rocco or whoever you keep at the 4, and now you have Ivica Zubac at the 5. That's a legitimate, one of the best starting fives in basketball. And then the 76ers give Joel Embiid to Portland. They don't want to trade him in the East. Here you go, Damian Lillard with Shaedon Sharpe, Nasir Little, Jeremy Grant, Joel Embiid, best championship contender either team I think has had in their time. So then on top of that, there are a bevy of moves that are around the league, like other moves that people could be looking at. And again, there's the James Harden Miami Heat rumors because they're trying to get Damian Lillard, but we don't know if Dame is going to do that. And does the Miami Heat, do they want to give up Tyler Hero because they've been for some reason really bent on keeping him? I mean, there's a lot of things they would have to figure out in those directions. But I think that there's some real opportunity for Dame to stay, get Joel, or Dame to leave, go to Miami, Harden, go to the Clippers, Harden, go to Miami, Harden, go to the Suns. Even though the Suns, for me, if they traded for Kyrie Irving or James Harden, that would just be for what? So year 4 would be Kevin Durant, and you'd be starting Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, or Kyrie or Harden with Durant, and then whoever big, Jock Landale or whatever they get in free agency. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So I think the Clippers, if they get James Harden, I think they're a top 3 team in the West. Meaning record-wise, maybe top 4, depending on how you view the Lakers or the Warriors. But the Warriors right now kind of all over the place with the Chris Paul addition. I think the Nuggets are obviously the best team in the West. I think the Lakers are going to make a bevy of moves, which we're going to talk about them in a second. They're going to retain Rui, retain Austin Reeves, possibly get some other people in free agency, which they more than likely will. So we'll have to see. We'll for sure have to see. But I think that the James Harden news is real, and I think it could happen, over the next few days before the season, I think, for sure. So, yeah, Joel Embiid could be on the move to the Western Conference, and I would not be surprised if that happened at all. All right, y'all. So that's that portion. But the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are in a situation now where they are a tax team. They're over the tax. So they don't have access to the full MLE. The full MLE is worth about approximately $12.4 million. Bruce Brown, the Nuggets 6th man, one of their 6 best players, great player throughout the entire season, throughout the entire playoff run, finals run, multi-talented, 2-way player, great floater game, decent enough offensive game, decent floor spacer at times, great rim pressure player, great transition player, great all-ball defender, great help defender, great team defender, zone defender, all that stuff. Can guard guards, and then he can also guard wings, like Kevin Durant size wings. So incredible player. But we're in a situation now where the Nuggets can only offer him, as we talked about before, $7.7 million. That's the highest they can go. The highest they can go. But the thing is about Bruce Brown has said that money is not the most important thing. So if that's the case, is there any way that Bruce Brown would be willing to say, we would be willing to do a deal with the Nuggets where they're taking $7.7 million this year, which is approximately around $5 million less than he could get this season. And then the very next season, you come back on a Bobby Portis deal, and basically you get a 4-year, I want to say $50-something million extension. 4-year, $50-something million extension. I did the math on this already with the projected cap that I had in front of me based on the numbers that I saw. And this was not too long ago. But I think Bruce Brown, basically in totality, if Bruce Brown were to come back to the Denver Nuggets, they could be looking at a situation where Bruce is getting $7.7 million this year. Then he's immediately eligible for a 4-year extension next year. And that would put Bruce Brown at approximately a 5-year, $62.1 million deal with the Denver Nuggets if he chose to come back and play for the Nuggets. So 1 year, $7.7 million deal this year with the player option on the other side of it. So roughly a 2-year, $15.4 million deal, which, by the way, Bruce could make all that this season. He then drops the player option after this year. Maybe they win another championship. And then Bruce Brown comes back and he signs a basically 4-year, $55 million deal. So I think for me, ideally, and I think for the Nuggets, that's what they would like to do. They don't want to lose Bruce Brown. They want to keep him. They want to give him an opportunity to be, what he's been, which has been the Nuggets completely like, he changes the dynamic of the team. He changes the dynamic of the team. He's a very selfless player. He's a hustle player. He's a player that plays with tremendous amounts of grit and toughness and athleticism. He's just one of the players that championship rosters need. It's just really that simple. So I think Bruce has the potential to be a really ideal fit for the Denver Nuggets team. But now it's just a matter of, is that going to be good enough for him? Is that amount of money going to be good enough for Bruce? But again, for me, whatever Bruce does, I support him. I think Bruce deserves his money. He's 26 years old. You got to maximize his window. Go get your bag. You won a championship. You already showed that you're an elite level championship player, and you could win another championship with another team. So, Bruce, you could have the same thing you had with the Nuggets with somebody else potentially, whether it's the Mavericks, the Lakers are looking at him, the Indiana Patriots are looking at him, and then the Houston Rockets are looking at him. Like, there's teams that are going to be throwing more than $12 million at him. So it's just a matter of what he values. And again, Bruce, to be smart, take the long-term deal. Makes the most sense. Get what you can right now. Absolutely. But again, that's where it comes back to a handshake deal. Is there going to be enough for the Nuggets to say, hey, we're going to give you a contract extension as soon as this year is over. You don't even have to worry about it. And really, whatever happens, you're getting the money. Whatever happens. Now, obviously, if there's a catastrophic injury, we'll guarantee you for a year or whatever else. We can talk about that, but like a handshake deal. But I don't know if Calvin Booth, here's the thing. I don't know if Calvin Booth is willing to wait that long. And I don't know if he will wait that long. Here's the thing. So unless it's right away, right, where they're just like, yeah, this is over. This is a wrap. We're absolutely going to re-sign you. Bruce has already said that as soon as 6 o'clock hits, I'm re-signing with the Denver Nuggets, which, again, for me would be the most ideal because I love Bruce Brown. That's the most ideal outcome would be for them to give Bruce Brown. But in the event that they can't, there are some players that I think fit what the Nuggets are looking for, and that would be stronger additions in some ways than Bruce is, but wouldn't be the overall player that Bruce Brown is. And let me go ahead and show you at the number one top of my leaderboard for Bruce Brown replacements. Be at the very tippity top of the leaderboard. Bruce Brown replacements is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That is by far my favorite option for the Denver Nuggets. Why do I say that? Nickeil Alexander-Walker, by the way, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they didn't offer him a qualifying offer, which would be approximately about $7.7 million, I believe. They didn't offer him a qualifier because they seem to be of the mindset, the rumor on the street is, that they can get him for less than the qualifying offer. Which, for me, if I'm Calvin Booth and you don't love him, hey, we have access to a couple of second-round picks. We have access to some pick swaps. We have access to even a first-round pick. And if you haven't seen Broncos Squatch, Jake Coyne, you can find him. I believe Ryan Blackburn did an episode with him, but you can find him on my page. I retweeted his free agency report that he put together. But the Nuggets have a few options in terms of some of the assets that they have available to them. So the Denver Nuggets have 3 traded player exceptions. They have Monte Morris, which is a $9.125 million trade exception that they have available that they could use in a trade for Nickeil Alexander or a player we'll talk about in a minute. They have a $2.2 million trade exception for the Bones Highland trade and a $1.9 million trade exception for the Davon Reed trade. They have access to a $5 million mid-level exception, a $5 million mid-level exception that they can utilize on signing a player on a $5 million deal. They have the minimum exception, where they can always sign players for a minimum contract. But here's the draft assets they have available. The Denver Nuggets, they could trade. They have access to 3 second-round picks that they could trade, which is 2025, 2026, 2030 second round picks. Again, this is from Jake Cohen, Bronco Squats. Find it on my Twitter. They have access to first round pick swap rights in 2024, 2024, 2026, and 2030, and then 2028. They have access to 4 pick swaps. So for me, I would be more than willing to trade them one of the Monte Morris trade player exceptions, or trading to 2025, 2026 second round picks, and maybe even a pick swap down the line for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think he's that good. He's 6'6", 205 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. He's a combo guard with elite defensive potential, 24 years old, good shooter, can play with and without Jamal Murray. Good player. Really, really solid player. And the dude has like a lot of potential. He's just 24 years old. That would absolutely be the player that I would most want to go after if I was the Denver Nuggets. It's really that simple. Like, he, for me, would be at the very top, of the list. I think he is such a good fit next to Jamal Murray. He'd be such a good fit next to Jamal Murray. The way he was able to play off the pick and roll, he can be a spot-up shooter. He can be your main defender that you have on your roster as well, like terms of your perimeter defender next to Jamal Murray. So having him and Aaron Gordon with Christian Brown and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Peyton Watson, you're going back to what you do best. You go right back to what you do best, and you play defense at a really high level. That's who he is. So if I'm the Nuggets, I'm absolutely trying to make that work, and I'm doing whatever I can to figure out that trade to see that if the Minnesota Timberwolves will bite on that. Now, I don't know if they will, but that's what I would do without a shadow of a doubt. They have Naj Reid on a 3-year, $42 million deal. They have Karl-Anthony Towns on a max extension. They have Rudy Gobert on a max extension, and then Anthony Edwards are going to pay him 2 years. Again, maybe they don't want to pay all that. Maybe they already got rid of Taurean Prince, so we'll see. But I think that's the first player that I would go after. So again, Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be my first option. Second option, y'all. Bruce Brown's my first option. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, that's my second option. My third option is DeLon Wright. Now, some of y'all might be familiar with DeLon Wright. Some of you might not be familiar with who he is. DeLon Wright is a really good player. He's a veteran. He's an NBA champion, I believe, with the Toronto Raptors, if I remember correctly. He's just a really, really solid player, man. Like, he has a lot to his game. DeLon Wright, go ahead and show y'all some of his information. He's a big dude, bro. Like, DeLon Wright's like a big dude. He's a winner. He's been in winning situations before. He understands the culture. So, again, these are my free agent opportunities that I'm saying, like Denver Nuggets, how to prioritize today. He's 6'5", 185 pounds. He averaged his last season 7 points a game, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He shot around 87% from the free throw line, 47.4% from the field, and then he shot from 38.5% from 3 yesterday. He's a good player. He's a career 35% from 3 shooter, 7 points a game, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. So again, this is my third option. Third option player for what I think the Denver Nuggets should be looking at today. If they can't get Bruce Brown, they can't manage to pry away Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think for the money in exchange for those second-round picks with the trade exceptions they have available to them, I think he might be the best fit. I really do. So here you can watch a little bit of his game. Again, DeLon Rice, he's a good player. If we can get the pixels to speed up, goodness gracious, that's nasty. He's a good player. He's a strong player, a strong defensive player. He's a good shooter. He can get to the rim a little bit. He can play make a little bit. Again, this is off your bench. He's a decent screen navigator. Not as explosive as Bruce, but really savvy, really smart player. So this could be another addition I think could make to the team. Like I said, like just a really defensively strong-minded player. And the Nuggets aren't really looking for a lot of offense. That's just not what they need. They just need defenders. They just need players that are willing to play on both ends of the court and that are able to play next to Jamal Murray when need be, able to guard and space well, and able to take advantage of POA defenders and all that other stuff. Like, he's just a really, really solid player. And he's a good off-ball player because of his hands. So this, like I said, this is my behind Bruce Brown, behind Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I think the most gettable, most obtainable, best options is DeLon Wright. DeLon Wright falls right on that list for me of players that I would want the Denver Nuggets to be targeting. And then finally, this is me painting my picture for what I think they could do. I think Taurean Prince is next. Taurean Prince got waived. He got released by the Minnesota Timberwolves, but the Denver Nuggets have the ability to use that $9 million trade exception they got from Monte Morris to trade to the Minnesota Timberwolves, to say to the Timberwolves, instead of just giving him away for nothing, we'll just trade you the trade exception for you to be able to utilize, and that way you have the cap relief you're looking for, and then we take on his contract, and that way you can get something back for him. And I think that's also another like a very feasible opportunity for them. And if a team is competing with them, then again, you can give up a second round pick because you have access to 3 of them. So again, you don't want to throw them away. But again, this is about maximizing a window. So it's going to be, for me, this is what it looks like. It's going to be Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, and another wing they add, which could be anywhere from Joe Ingles to Jay Crowder, whatever veteran minimum they want to add, or Jeff Green. So it could be Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, plus whatever big they get, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, or another wing they add, and also Jeff Green if he comes back. Or DeLon Wright, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji with another big, another wing that they add to the roster. Or they do something like, if they can't get those players, another cheap bargain bin player I think they could go after would be if they go and get Dennis Smith Jr., limited offensive player, not a great shooter, wonderful rim pressure guy, great at attacking the basket, really solid defender, really good defender as well. Or Chris Dunn from Utah, one of those kind of players. So they get Dennis Smith Jr., Chris Dunn, bargain bin addition with Christian Brown, Peyton Watson. And I think they can also afford to throw in the trade exception at that point and get Taurean Prince. So maybe that's even a better option for some of you that want another wing. So you add Dennis Smith Jr., you add a Chris Dunn, you have Christian Brown, you have Peyton Watson, then you add Taurean Prince with Zeke Naji, and then you kind of fill it out from there. So I'm really interested to see how today goes, because I'm really interested to see how the entire team responds and the front office responds to the frenzy that will be today. Because Bruce Brown can have a lot of suitors, but I think Bruce Brown has already said and already shown that, again, I want to win. And if I can be in a place that I can win and that I can play at a high level that I know the team is committed to winning, and I know the team cares about me and the culture is really solid, the culture is good, then I think the Denver Nuggets can be a place that he returns to. But that's up to him. Also, Blacko Chantar obviously will be on the roster too. So again, Blacko, Jeff Green, Taurean Prince, Zeke Naji, those are all, I think, the players that are going to be kind of rotating. We'll find out for today. Somebody asked, would they take Zeke Naji back for Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Now, that's tough because if they need an asset and you want like a young bargain bin 4, to play. They're going to have Cat, Rudy, and Nas. I don't know what they do with Kyle Anderson, so maybe Zeke, maybe Blocko. I mean, it's definitely possible for sure. That's definitely an option that they could look for. But regardless of that, I think today is going to be a madhouse. There's going to be stuff happening today that people didn't expect. James Harden's going to get moved soon. I think Kyrie Irving might be moved away from Dallas soon. So we're going to have to see, man. But I think Bruce Brown, like I said, I think the Lakers, the Mavericks, I think the Rockets and the Pacers are going to all throw $12 million plus at him, easy. But depends on what he prioritizes. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker, that not taking that qualifier, man. They think they can get him for cheaper. Come to Denver. Go make it work. That's a great move. Like that's the same thing I felt about Bruce Brown last year in KCP. Remember, Twitter, I put out, like, again, the highest of the highest was the DeJounte Murray trade. And they could have snagged DeJounte Murray to be their two guard, then, they would have been OD. And they went 16-4 in the playoff this year. They might have gone 16-2. Like that's the difference between a high-level starter, high-level role player in KCP and a near all-star level player in DeJounte Murray. And he wasn't great for the Atlanta Hawks, but think about what he would have been next to Jamal Murray and Porter and Gordon and Jokic, right? So I think this year, my guy, like last year, it was DeJounte Murray, Bruce Brown, and KCP and Gary Harris for me, and then Gary Payton II. This year, my guys are Bruce Brown, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, DeLon Wright, Taurean Prince, Dennis Smith Jr., Chris Dunn as in terms of attainable. But easily, though, no, he's restricted. Remember, y'all, No is a restricted free agent. He's a restricted free agent. So they have the ability to re-sign him if they want. So I think with all that, I think Bruce has a chance to stay, but I'll be very aggressive going after Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But y'all, we'll see, man, because we're going to have another video probably tonight because we're going to just talk through day one. At the very least, I'll have like a short video. If not, if they don't make any major moves, a short video. But if they have like a real addition they're making, then if they get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I might start a YouTube. Like, I might. So swipe again, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Tell people where you like to get your favorite NBA Denver Nuggets content. Y'all know what time it is. Denver Nuggets champions. Hey, we out. We will see y'all.